Hey, how y'all doing? Good? Yeah? Great. Cool. All right, well, I'm here to talk to you about bodies. About bodies and belonging and this thing we do called code switching. And because these codes are hardwired into these ugly things called stereotypes, which we know are disconnecting us from each other, we need to find a new way of looking at each other. And I'm going to suggest that that's not talking about, but talking through our bodies. So you're all looking at me and you're thinking, oh yeah, she's just a talking head. And that makes you all listening heads. But every single part of your body is communicating all of the time. Even when it's listening, the body is speaking. So the body speaks. That's the first thing. The second thing is that the body can speak in multiple registers. So I'm at work, and I've got my little button-up shirt and my pencil skirt on, and I'm talking to my colleagues in my polite professional voice. And it's kind of like my Mad Men voice, but way less sexy. And the phone rings, and it's my sister. And she is a stay-at-home mom out west, and I answer it, and without even thinking, my voice completely changes. It's still distinctively my voice, but you know, where I'm from gets turned way, way, way up. And I'm trying to get rid of her. I'm like, yeah, okay, get off the phone now. I need to go. I'm at work. And I hang up. And I realize everybody is looking at me. You guys know this, right? That moment when everyone's looking at you thinking, who the hell did she just morph into? Yeah, that thing right there, that's code switching. So we all know that we got a bunch of different body languages and different voices, and they each come with their own set of unique contractions and word choices and ways of walking and ways of speaking. And the body can speak in these different registers. But what I want to say to you is that when I shift, when I'm switching, what I'm doing is I'm doing it strategically for my environment. So I'm communicating, but I'm also doing it so that I'm performing an act of cultural memory. So I said speaking, I said the body speaks, right? But that's actually a bad metaphor. Because we have privileged oral and written language so much that we literally don't have a word for the way the body speaks. I have to say speak. No, I could say dancing, but I won't say dance. I'll say speak. So every summer, Aucklanders migrate out of the city, right? We go back to our roots or back to our batches. And for my family, this is the far north. We go up to Whangarei, where I was born, or up to Kakoi, where my parents grew up. And when I go up there, my body language opens up. I hug people harder. I'm more prone to saying maybe kia ora, or I hold myself in a more self-deprecating way. And people say, oh yes, you're just getting out of the city, you're being more real, you're going back home. But I don't live there. I was just born there. And it's only one body language set that I employ. And it's not more real than any of the other ones. My body doesn't just speak far north, it speaks Ponsonby, it speaks Glen Eden, it speaks hippie, it speaks Les Mills, it speaks gay, it speaks straight, and none of these is any more real than the next. And what's important is that my body is strategically moving from one to the other in order to respond to its environment, in order to culturally survive. And why do we do this? To belong. So I made a show called the Offensive Nipple Show. Yeah, I know. And I am an actor, so I am trained in how to use my body to communicate belonging. And so you might say that I am a professional code switcher. Apart from the fact that all of us are doing this all of the time, I'm the one that makes money off it. Or actually, no, that's not true. Some of the time, I make a small amount of money off it. Thanks for the support, Mum. But I would suggest that actually all of us were professionals in this at one stage or another. I mean, do you remember when you were a teenager and the way you held your shoulders or the way you laughed or the way you ducked your head meant that you could be in the orchestra or the rugby team or at the Young Leaders Forum? Actually, all of us are professionals in this. And I think as we get older, we forget that the way we move our arms is a learned thing, that our bodies are a processing point for cultural information that we've inherited from like our parents or from older, bigger power sources, colonial, patriarchal, capital, about how to be. My body is the place I learn how to be a girl, a boy, a man, a woman, straight, gay, white, Maori, whatever. And it's also the place that I learn to recognize those things in other people. So what's the problem here? I mean, why are these codes limiting? Because none of us is fully knowable by any of them, right? I've never enjoyed wearing a bra. And as I was growing up, this was perceived by other people one of three ways. Either I was some kind of 70s feminist who was kind of maybe a bit dated or socially irrelevant. The second way was that I just didn't know how to get dressed, that I turned up in my pajamas and I was a bit lazy or disorganized. And the third way was that I wanted to be desired, that I was promiscuous or a bit slutty. And remember, I told you I speak West Auckland, and where I grew up, that's the best kind of thing a girl could be. That's what you wanted to be. But I couldn't tell you which one of these codes I was because I always felt like I was kind of all of them. They felt restrictive. So we made a show called the Offensive Nipple Show in response to this bad checklist that someone had written about how to be female. And in order to make the show, we used our body knowledge. We code switched, like you would switch character, which makes sense, it's a sketch show. But we didn't just code switch. We mismatched the codes. We jammed them together in unexpected ways. We'd used the wrong voice with the wrong body. We did what I will call here code slipping. So we told the ancient mythology of the Pakeha body. We gave our vaginas voices, but dialogue like they had PhDs. We made a show called the Offensive Nipple Show, which everybody thought would be cabaret, and which in actual fact was not that offensive at all. It just had nudity. In one moment, I'd be tearing my clothes off like they were made of acid, and in the next moment, I'd be asking you to chase me, chase me, chase me. Chase me. Chase me. Whether my nudity was emergency, or sorority, or child's game, or sanctimonious yogi, we were code switching and code slipping all of the time. We weren't just performing identities, we were demonstrating how identity is performed. And you might say, oh yeah, that's theater. That's what makes it interesting. If I give you an expected character with an expected movement, it's not so interesting to watch, but I'm doing this not just to entertain you. What I'm doing is trying to show you this restrictive cultural soup we are all swimming in. So I am just one queer, white body. And I make a one show. But I want to know how other people do this. So last night I go on Facebook, I ask my friends, how do you use your voice and your body in crazy ways to resist stereotype? The answers are crazy. So many people reply to me. My friend, she's in a wheelchair. She says to me, darling, I smile. I smile all the time. So I am a happy cripple. Nobody expects to meet a happy cripple. Or my friend with a disability in her leg, she likes to show her legs a lot. She is disobeying her stereotype. Or my friend with the premature gray hair, he's in his 20s. Everybody think, oh, he's successful, white, older male. He's not, darling. No. So what he do? He use eye contact. So intense to violate his stereotype. It's amazing to me so many people know how to do this already. But what is most interesting is the people for whom they don't have to think, oh my gosh, I wonder how I consciously perform my identity. No. There are some people for whom they say, even my act of existence is an act of code slipping. And they are my friends who are gay, my friends who are transgender, my friends who are women of color. To be articulate and a woman of color is code slipping. To be transgender and to be alive is the most radical act you can be. So, in this show, I become this woman, and I love her. She's so comfortable, you know? And she makes you feel so comfortable because she just wants everybody to be happy. But when I do this, when I become Brazilian, I reach the limit of my privilege because my whiteness means that every code is available to me all of the time. Even here talking to you guys, that my switching and slipping will be celebrated. That I can talk to my brown friends and call them sis and talk about them feels. And it'll only serve to show how down with the cause and how street and how literate I am. And the same cannot be said if they choose to switch into codes that are written for my body. So this language system we're using, it's flawed. And it assigns privilege. And by using it, we're complicit in those flaws and those privileges. Because these stories about how to be brown or white or camp or butch, the ones our bodies know so well, who is writing them? And what's the relationship between those codes and power? Why is it dangerous to view the world through these codes? In Auckland, we've had a spate of brutal attacks on Asians in the last few months in the street. And our national newspaper said it was because they were perceived as more docile, easier targets, more attackable. In Onehunga, there's a 12 to 14-year-old boy who's groped already 12 women on the street because something about the way we're coding those women's bodies is telling him that's okay. He's getting that story from somewhere, not to mention our justice systems or our airport security, these places where these coding transactions are the basis for social profiling. So operating solely under these codes and understanding the world by them is disconnecting us from each other. And it's increasing our prejudice, and it's increasing our violence, and it's entrenching our privilege. And it's not just separating us from each other, it's separating us from ourselves, from all the people we could be. If I learned anything from the Offensive Nipple Show, it's that I don't just reveal code when I code slip. I generate new codes. I get the power to do that. I make new possibilities for myself and for other people's bodies. And yes, the codes are restrictive, and yes, they're flawed, but we do have agency. And what I challenge you to do is to slip. It's free. To disidentify with your type, to use the wrong voice with the wrong body, to be the girl with the disability showing too much leg, to be the power-dressing businesswoman with her eyebrows drawn on too big. Because every time we do this, every time we jam the system, every time we willfully slip, we're destabilizing power structures, and that is an act of solidarity. Because even those who win by the system, the white bankers, the sexy women, the male CEOs, the ones who the code was written for, they are winning. But when some win and others don't, we all miss out on the real opportunities to connect outside the stereotypes in which some can't win. When we slip, it's an act of empathy. When we slip, it increases our possibility of connection. And when we slip, we use our imaginations to rewrite our cultural codes. And that exists in every single opportunity to live consciously inside these bodies that we're given.